Land Use Committee for March 16th. Is there any courtesy of the floor? No. Can we have the report from the Delaware Water Gap Coalition?
Yes.
And you'll just have to state your name and your address for the record.
Tara Mezzanotte, 59 Stark Road, Columbia, New Jersey, 07832.
Great, thank you so much.
All good? Yes, Tara Mezzanotte with I-80 Fence and Safety Concerns at the Delaware Water Gap Coalition, also known as I-80 DWG Coalition. I'm glad to be back here. It's good to see you guys again. A few shifts in seats, that's about it. When I was last here last year, I was coming before you guys to responsibly bring to your attention the issues up in the Delaware Water Gap with the New Jersey Department of Transportation's rockfall mitigation plans and how they would be impacting Northampton County. Both the visual impact, which of course is a concern, but more importantly, I was talking about the traffic impacts and you guys, in my opinion, wisely supported our request to support Warren County's request to the New Jersey Department of Transportation for what we were calling Fix the S-Curve study. That's what we were calling it at that time. That was about all the public and everybody else could grasp, is that the S-Curve needed to be fixed. And you did that, and we were grateful for it, and therefore, we've done something with that. If you want to go to page 2, I want to show you how you are now one of the 4 counties on our board.
We're one of the dots.
You're one of the blue dots. So we were fortunate to have Congressman Keene, who is inheriting our county, Warren County, from Congressman Gottheimer. He just came on board. He was also elected new. So we were fortunate that he right away wanted to come out and have a site visit and get a briefing on this project. So he was out yesterday, so I'm basically showing you the slides that we showed him on the tour. We did get nice press. We brought 69 News. Larry Higgs from NJ.com came out, as well as New Jersey Herald, Pocono Record, Bergen County people. So we got some nice press out of it. You may or may not have seen it, but it was a nice event. We brought Congressman Keene first into Northampton County. Of course, Commissioner Zirinsky was invited, but not able to attend, regretfully. So knowing that we were going to bring him to the Portland-Columbia footbridge to start this tour off, I knew it was right to invite Portland to welcome him to their town, Northampton County Council committee person to come to welcome him to Northampton County, and your state elects were included as well. So Representative Flood did come. She appeared in person, and we started out on the footbridge. And now we're going to go back to page 1, if I may. That's the last time I'm going to jump around. Before walking out there, I had boards, big boards, and I wanted to show that while we're out on this bridge, we're going to be looking down at the Delaware Water Gap at one of the most beautiful spots, in my opinion, in the area, and one of the best views of the gap. You guys are down here. I don't know that you've ever been out on the footbridge. I know most of the people on this tour with us yesterday, even though they know the area, had never been out on the footbridge. They did pick it up nicely in the press. You could see the gap in the background, and it's really magnificent. It was built on the old, the longest covered bridge over the Delaware until 1955, which is when Hurricane Diane wiped the thing out. And what was left behind was the structure it was on, and the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission, our tolls support a few of these free bridges, and they built a footbridge that connects my county, Warren County, to your county, right there in Portland. So we went out there and we started the event out there, and I chose to use this time to speak about the importance of the Delaware Water Gap from a historical, cultural perspective. That's not something I would have been talking to you about when I was here about the traffic concerns, because it's not we trust the State Historic Preservation, our State Historic Preservation offices to have that in their purview. We trust the National Park Service to be representing their park lands. So it's not, and the federally recognized tribes. So we trust them to be advocating for the visual impacts and the historic cultural pieces of this. But we've learned a lot, and I wanted to share with you a little about that right now. What has been revealed in the past year is through documents that I've been through and my relationship with the tribes, is the Delaware Water Gap is eligible as a whole, as an area, to be what's called a traditional cultural landscape. It's not our language. You know, it's not something we would know is even a category in the National Register. But I bet some of you know that what Mesa Verde is. You know, where they have the cliff dwellers out in the west. That's a traditional cultural landscape. It's sacred. It represents the culture of the indigenous of that time. Our Delaware Water Gap is eligible to be that kind of a resource. And the tribes are advocating for it as such. In addition, it's eligible, I do believe, I don't have a historic preservation office saying this like the tribes say this, but there's very good reason to believe it's also eligible to be what's called a traditional, a national natural landscape. So the geological formation of the gap is unique. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like it. It has its own place. That's also a category in the National Register as special. And also a natural historic landscape. So you think about the history of the gap, take away the cultural pieces, the start of tourism, the railroad lines, 2 lines came through, and that kind of industry, logs flumes came down the Delaware River. That's where the industry of the building of the houses. So it was significant. I thought it would be nice to point that out, and once again remind everybody that that is that is not how Federal Highway, New Jersey, or the NJDOT has been evaluating our natural resources. They didn't even want to do environmental studies when this thing first hatched in 2011. So they just wanted to blast this right through from concept development to final design and skip evaluating it as such. So I share a little bit about our gap. Okay, back to page 2. Page 2, I needed to point out what I may have mentioned in passing last time I was here is that the issues up in the gap are not unique. They started with the Route 46 Jurassic fence, which is the horrible thing they did on the Jersey side, which is when Knowlton became first violated and did not have a voice no matter what we tried. And that is why when they came in saying they want to do similar in the gap, we went bonkers and said we needed to get everybody involved. So, and not only that, there's 2 along the scenic byway across from Bucks County and Hunterdon County, which is the Devil's Tea Table and a beautiful slope in West Amwell. Though all 4 of these projects are in Congressman Keene's jurisdiction. In addition to Congressman Keene being with us yesterday, Congresswoman Weil did send a representative. And as I probably had told you last year, she has been advocating behind the scenes. So the request was, Warren County made a request, formal request to both Congressman Keene and to Congresswoman Wild to come together and collaborate and take the issues up at whole level. The towns have done what they can, which is 30 of them at this point, when you look at the whole of the issues down the Delaware River. So 30 towns, 4 counties, over 60 letters and resolutions, and we're still pretty much nowhere in having a voice. There's significant false and misleading information that's been put out. I don't know if I had mentioned that there was an investigation with the Office of Inspector General when I was here last year. That is still ongoing. So they're still receiving information, and that doesn't keep going if there's not something to be looking at. So next page, I highlighted what I definitely had shown you this last year. I had shown you that the DOT's plan was to shift the lanes, remove the shoulders, and do this dangerous thing. I showed Congressman Keene and Congresswoman Wiles representatives and all the other state elects and town officials why that was such a bad plan. A new thing happened, which is incredibly unfortunate, is that the DOT continues to put out misinformation and create opportunity to justify this project and use misinformation. So this next slide is, you should see three different, this one? We on this one? Yeah. Make sure I'm talking right. So on the left, you see where there is a rock that gets pushed onto the roadway. And that rock gets pushed onto the roadway by the tree over in the right picture that says where the rock was before the tree toppled them. That tree behind it pushed that rock off the wall. Are you with me? You got it, Tara?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not blowing it. It pushed that rock on the wall, off the wall, and it landed on the road, and the car hit it. And unfortunately, the DOT was not willing to be meeting with Warren County about all the county-wide transportation issues if I-80 was a topic on the agenda. How's that feel?
Right.
So Warren County took it off the agenda, and next thing you know, there's a meeting going to be held about Warren County transportation issues minus the I-80 project. Wouldn't you know it, during that meeting, the commissioner chose to bring up a rockfall event. And you're looking at it. So rockfall, and this is what I have revealed over time. Rockfall events are being claimed to happen that are not rockfall events. This wall was identified in 2011 as having issues, that instability, and it even noted in the report that a tree could topple a rock from the wall. So the DOT, once again, is neglecting its assets, not addressing the real issues of safety, and then unfortunately, they come around and choose to bring this up because it might actually be a rockfall event, which it wasn't. So just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with. Actually skip to, yeah, we'll stay on this page. I also, part of the meeting was, I said twofold, for Congressman Keene to get into scrutiny, to get into raising this another level, to bring it up to federal highways, to look for formal conflict resolution. That is, there's a process allowed for that on the federal level. So he's involved on that end because this is about the New Jersey Department of Transportation and Federal Highway New Jersey. So we've asked him to engage with how is this happening? But we've asked Congresswoman Weil to take the lead on what we're now calling the I-80 611 Delaware Water Gap Corridor Study. So I would have been telling you last year on Fix the S-Curve, of course it includes 611. Clearly, we now realize that everybody now realizes this isn't like I need to do an education about the impacts of when 611's closed, what happens on 80. We're living it. And what happened, we all knew what happens on 611 when 80's closed. That was the easy one. Well, now circumstance has it that everybody quite understands just how connected our corridor is that we've been suffering with and living with. So we've asked Congresswoman Weil to look into steps to do that. Last slide was, I would have shown you the regional diversion route, the DOT's plan for construction traffic was to send traffic down to 78 via 287 in Parsippany on the Jersey side or 33 on the Pennsylvania side. Well, I thought it was a good time to illustrate the ridiculousness of that not studied plan, and that these are the pictures of crashes that you probably, you certainly knew about the one of them, with the one with the fatality. You probably knew about the one on the right where we closed 80 for 7 hours because of a hazmat spill, and the issues with that trickled down into Bangor, and all the local fire departments were out on the roads, stopping trucks from going off of 191. It was just a regional disaster. But 3 different events happened within a week with 611 closed. And that is exactly what we were talking about when we were saying, could you support requesting the study? because it helps move us to getting some, I was hoping to get to, third set of eyes on this thing. Quite frankly, kicking the DOT off the job in Federal Highway New Jersey and getting a third party involved in looking at the big picture, requesting the environmental impact statement, which still hasn't been mandated for loads of reasons that I could talk about for another 15 minutes. But since Congressman was with us yesterday, I figured instead I would just talk about what we talked about. And part of the reason that it was so natural and organic and obvious for him to come out is because we do have 4 counties, because this is a federal issue. This is a federally funded, by state, regional project issue when there's not really anything being done that will long-term deliver solutions in a way that are not, in a way that are safe. So that's my 15 minutes plus 1. Does anybody have questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I guess my question is, what is your final end goal?
What's the end game? Thank you.
I see you're pointing out some problems, but
Yep, I appreciate
what's
it.
the solution?
This, so it's, first, we deserve an environmental impact statement. Seems pretty obvious. If there's ever going to be a full environmental impact study, if there's ever something that should, it's this level of historic cultural resource concern, it's this level of traffic impact to the community, human impact concern, there's federally, there's endangered species. I mean, it should have a full environmental impact statement. So number 1, that would bring, that would require them to bring the stakeholders to the table in a way that we've been denied. So the benefit of an environmental impact statement is we have the voice that we don't, and we have transparency. So that's for the Rockfall project. It also is required to look at all reasonable alternatives, which we know has not been done. So it forces a full analysis of all reasonable alternatives and presenting it to us. So environmental impact statement would produce a recommendation that we're involved in the process. I'm not saying I know what the answer is, but the environmental impact statement gives us the voice and transparency in the process. But that doesn't solve the long-term problem. The study of the corridor would produce, these are the actual safety issues. These are the traffic congestion issues. These are the volume issues. We have the warehouses that are happening. Nobody's talked, this hasn't even considered the increase of 10,000 vehicles a day through this corridor, which is, statistically been revealed to us through credible traffic studies. So in addition to all we're experiencing, we're gonna have 10,000 more vehicles through this corridor. So the study would look at all the issues from the Delaware Water Gap Bridge down to the Portland Bridge, the 4 miles in between both sides of the river. The purpose of that is then you can't identify alternatives and mitigation solutions until you know what the problems are that you're mitigating. That would be the next phase. They would come out with, we're talking tunnel, bypass. This is like our gateway. It's monumental, and it has to come with support from the federal level. 3 MPOs. This isn't just Lehigh Valley Planning, and that's why we've been neglected. We're in the corner of 3 counties, 2 states, 3 MPOs, 3 different congressional legislative districts, 3 different state legislative districts. So of course, nobody has, they almost get a pass. You're gonna put your resources on the thing that's most important to your jurisdiction.
Right, but you have multiple jurisdictions. I see that. And I just want to note that one of the reasons why we got into the resolution, or we made the resolution, was because East Bangerborough, Plainfield, Penn Argyl, Lower Mount Bethel, Upper Mount Bethel, Stockton Borough, all said that they were adversely or would be adversely impacted somehow. And we saw, yesterday we had a presentation by the RPL, Upper Mount Bethel, talking about the warehousing situation that's going up there. And that puts pressure on this as well. we don't have enough that we've studied to really understand how that is going to affect traffic going into New Jersey. So we're all connected in some way. So I think it was important that we entered into this project. And, you know, I'm glad that you came here to update us. So thank you. And, you know.
Did I
please-
answer, you understand? A study
Yeah,
and
somewhat,
studies.
yeah.
Studies, period.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers.
Because I think, here's the thing, I mean, I drive past one of these rockfall construction projects every day, Jugtown Mountain on I-78, if you're familiar with
Total
that.
boondoggle.
Yeah, now, rocks falling onto the road was a problem.
How do you, I've been told no.
Well, there was a fence there, and sometimes things would fall, and there is increased truck traffic through it. I mean, I've driven for a couple of decades now along there, and so, yeah, I love the beauty of the ice on the rocks and everything like that, but at the same time, I do want to have safe passage for cars and
With you.
trucks.
Yep.
So I guess, you know, I appreciate you wanting to do a study, but I'm also concerned about traffic safety. And if things have to be changed or fixed in order to accommodate traffic, that's a consideration. I understand you wanting to study this, but I think that there's also a need to facilitate the movement of traffic in a safe way through there. So
That's
mixed
what the study
thoughts.
will.
Well, the study, yeah, and let me say, we support reasonable rockfall mitigation. Yeah, so let me go right there. There was a 4.9 million 9-month plan approved, studied, and the town's approved. That was changed behind closed doors into the project it is today.
Right.
And that is, you know, that's the white elephant.
Right, because that was something that you brought up before
Yes.
as well, but, you know, time has passed and
Yeah.
so.
So they would look back to that 4.5 million plan and say, well, why was that? What was wrong with that? The EIS could help us get that.
So that's important. So thank you again, Tara.
Thank you.
I
Thanks
appreciate
for having
it.
me. Yep.
We're going to rejuggle the agenda. Becky Bradley from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is on her way. She says she's at 13th Street, so she's real close, but we're going to go on to update regarding the Nazareth Borough Municipal Authority biosolids application. Da, 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 da.
Bear with me here. I am not an eloquent public speaker as my predecessor here. So my name is Megan Juliana. I am from Plainfield Township. Did you need anything else?
Do you need her specific address?
No,
You're
okay.
good, okay.
So thank you first and foremost for getting this on the agenda. I live on an 86-acre preserved farm in Plainfield Township. We're in the 3rd generation. And it is adjacent to the preserve farm that the Nazareth Borough Municipal Authority purchased in November 2021. And I'm here today to talk about how this is not just a backyard problem and that this is a county problem and on several different levels. And I'm here today asking for your help. Just like I saw that you took a stand against the Bethlehem landfill expansion. I'm here today to try and just bring a little bit more awareness to how this affects everyone in Northampton County. First, Nazareth Borough Municipal Authority is the 7th sewer authority in the state to buy a preserved farm. Let's be real, these guys don't care about farming. They could care less if a farmer has a good yield or not, as long as they have someone to spread the sludge and farm the land. That's all they care about. My concern here is this idea of municipalities buying up our preserved farms will go from 7 to 15 to 20 and so on. They are coming in with a premium offer that people cannot turn down. What are we to do when our preserve farms are literally covered in crap? This was never the intention of the program. My suggestion is an amendment of sorts to this Right to Farm Act. If a municipality wants to buy a farm, they must agree to signing a land covenant so that no sludge is ever spread. That's what we are currently doing with our farm, with a lawyer that's helping us move forward with, so that if our farm is ever sold in the near future, and even in far off future, this signed document is binding by law. No sludge can ever be spread on this 86-acre farm. My neighbors and myself have gone to different representatives. We have met with Representative Flood and Scavallo and Wild. We have sent letters upon letters, and we're told to go to our local representatives. Representative Scavallo told us that John Embick at one time actually went out and attempted to have a study done on what the ramifications of this sludge do. And he put together some sort of a program and shuffling of feet and shuffling of papers, and nothing ever actually got done.
I'd love to see that, by the way,
Yeah,
because no one has ever given that to us, and no one has ever told us about that. And I have been very vocal about sludge. I don't know if you know Millie Bean.
oh, she's my neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured so, because you're on the adjacent property to this.
Yes.
We've been talking to her for, I don't know, ever since it was, the farm was bought. The problem, one of the problems is that you can't control the exchange of property. You want us to tell the person who has the property to put a covenant on it, an agreement at the time of sale. But it was the Hauer farm, right?
Correct.
They didn't do that. They accepted that bid, and we can't involve ourselves in a real estate transaction. One of the things that I was successful in doing was, when there is a preserved farm in Northampton County, you can sign voluntarily an agreement to not spread sludge. But it's voluntary, because there is another law, the Farm Bill, at the state level that precludes that. So when your state representatives tell you to kick the can down to us, it's only them and your congresswoman or congressman who can change that Farm Bill. We can advocate for it, but we can't do it. And I have been advocating for that.
Yes.
And this is a frustrating process for me, and I can see that it is frustrating for you, because you are the landowner there. And I can understand that you do not want this on your farm.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So, I think what we're looking for is, yes, an amendment to that bill of sorts, right? Where, as I said, it was never the intention of the program.
Right.
I'd like to believe that a wastewater treatment plant could come in and purchase a farm for the sole purpose of spreading sludge. I don't think that was ever the intent of the program, and I don't think anyone ever even envisioned that this would be happening. But next up, yes, 2019, John Embick had put something together, and I will get my hands on that.
You mean
and-
John Emmerich?
Yes, and send it to you.
Joe,
Yes, yes.
in what year?
It was 2019.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Okay. So next up, in terms of how this is a county problem, is that our waterways will be destroyed. I have some copies here for you guys. One thing that I'm providing you with is a docket from the Delaware River Keepers. They have been really involved with us. They have already invested some money. They sent a video crew out last summer. They are planning to, take charge with us if this goes to court. One of the things, they actually mentioned 2 different waterways in Northampton County in this docket that are affected by Nazareth Borough Municipal Authority's actions. And, you know, just to kind of touch on a couple points that they put in this docket. Again, I have copies here for you. But streams, these are streams that contribute flow and runoff to the Bushkill Creek watershed, where sewage and sludge biosolids are applied, receive the nutrients and other toxic contaminants contained in the applied sludge from this wastewater treatment plant, which further threatens the high water quality of the Bushkill Creek and its tributaries and further degrades impaired waters. The allowable levels of phosphorus and nitrogen are all more important because of the lack of close monitoring of sewage sludge and land application activities statewide. Until we are certain that the sludge from wastewater treatment plants will not endanger the Bushkill Creek tributaries, Delaware River Keeper Network opposes the application of biosolids from this wastewater treatment plant to any portion of the Bushkill Creek watershed. Finally, we request that PFAS be added to the list of parameters to be monitored for and removed from this wastewater treatment plant's effluent, since we know that PFAS occur in treated effluent from wastewater facilities, including from sewage treatment plants, and is found in sewage sludge and biosolids. PFAS exposure through various media is linked to serious health effects, including but not limited to cancers, high blood pressure, colitis, preeclampsia, and development effects on the fetus, infants, and young children. Once released, PFAS then make their way into groundwater, surface water, air, soil, wildlife, including fish and other aquatic life, and into food. The chemicals are discharged with effluent, escape to the air, and are deposited in soils and vegetation by sewage sludge and runoff from the stormwater into streams. This farm that Nazareth has purchased, it is all sloping lands. This is the farm here. It has not been spread on yet, but this just gives you an idea of what happens to the air quality when it is farmed. It is all sloping lands on both sides. So you have the water runoff from the storms. Next up, when you see this map that I printed off from the Bushkill Creek Conservancy, there is an actual natural spring that starts on this farm. It starts on this farm, and when you get a good rain, this thing is flowing. It is flowing so hard. I mean, it actually shows up on the Bushkill Creek Conservancy because this is it. It runs the entire way through the county and continues on down into the Delaware River. And this is the other stream that the Delaware River Keeper mentions, the Shennick Creek. You know, this water, people live all along these waterways. Contaminants can get into the aquifers. People fish and hunt. Our wildlife eats and drinks from these sources. Our children play in these creeks. Penn Argyl Sewer, who has nothing to win or lose by telling us this, told us that we should be extremely concerned with Nazareth Borough's sludge due to the cement company and all of the heavy metals and chemicals coming from that area. Third, as I briefly mentioned, the air quality and the close proximity to a community park that we have. I'm just going to read off the amount of kids that come into this park from all over the county. This is not just a Slate Belt, Penn Argyl type of situation. The Wolfpack Baseball Club will be using our senior baseball field for youth baseball, made up of Nazareth Community Youth and Bushkill and Moore Townships. The community park is home to the Spring Blue Mountain Youth Soccer League, which uses the Plainfield Township Park for all under 11 spring games from April 2nd to June 11th. Over 400 kids and 800 adults will be at the complex every Sunday this spring, enjoying the fresh air. Teams from Parkland, Lower Macungie, East Allen Township, Bethlehem Township, Forks Township, Moore Township, Northern Lehigh, Easton, Palmer Township, Nazareth and Bushkill Township, Slate Belt, and a few churches like St. James Catholic Church, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Life Church, and others will all get to experience the impacts of the sludge at this park. The Wing Gap youth soccer teams, made up of our local Penn Argyl School District children, use the facility for practices each week, where over 120 kids will be running and playing their sport 2 to 3 times a week in the open air. The Junior Knights Baseball Club also uses our junior field at the park, home to up to 3 teams of 8 through 12-year-olds that practice and play games against teams from Forks, Nazareth, Moore, Bethlehem, Easton, Williams Township, Freemansburg, and others. Faith Christian School of Rosetto uses the facility for their high school soccer teams, with dozens of students from the Slate Belt and Southern Poconos. A few soccer camps have been using the park for their soccer camps. Dominate the 18 goalkeeper soccer camp, hosting upwards of 150 regional goalkeepers. Penn Prospect Soccer Camp, with another 60 to 100 enrolled campers, will get to experience the horrible smell. And lastly, Penn Argyl High School and Middle School cross country train there and host meets to schools from all over the county. Last thing, I'm not sure if anyone has heard about Phoenixville wastewater treatment plant. I have an article to hand out to you all. They made national news last year. In how they are basically, they're being a pillar in the community, and they are really trying to turn what is looked at as, a foul practice and really taking it to the next level. And the way that they are able to put together this new treatment plant is that they received 2 different grants. One came from their county, and I believe it was $600,000. But I'm going to hand this out to you so you can read up on it. I'm here. I know you guys are bombarded with stuff from
No,
people
I
all
appreciate
over,
being here. I do.
but I'm telling you, this is a real issue if this continues down this path of them being able to buy up farms and spread like this. So I appreciate your time. I do hope you look over the stuff that I'm providing. This I provided to just to kind of give you an idea of where the park is. This is the field that they purchased. This is the wind direction. This is their farm. This is our park. Here is the stream that starts and runs down into the Little Bushkill. So thank you all very much.
Yes. No, thank you for coming, Megan, and I do appreciate it, and I appreciate this information. And if there's anything that we can do, I will get it done. Because this is an important issue to me, and I've been up to that area. I went and I toured it with Millie in her car. She showed me everything there. And there's a person that I connected her with who is part of a
Dari.
Dari Sitcher. Yes.
She
Has
came-
Dari been helping you?
Yes, well, she recently retired. She kind of closed down her alliance, but she did come out last summer with a filmmaker who was putting together a documentary. But, it's, even from her perspective, it's just keep showing up. Just
Yeah.
keep coming to these meetings, keep letting you know. No,
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead,
This
Joe.
is a municipal authority. Who appoints the members to this board?
not my town,
Nazareth
does?
Borough.
Nazareth,
appoints the members?
Nazareth Borough.
So what
The
you have
mayor-
to do, you have to get involved in the elections.
won't let
in the
us-
Borough of
we
Nazareth
don't-
And shame them, support candidates who will appoint members to this board who can change that and stop this practice.
So number
Otherwise,
one, I don't live in
see-
the borough. I have no way to
Right.
vote. They will not let us speak at the meetings. The mayor has
Well,
actually
that's
blocked,
illegal.
they're claiming sunshine law. We're not residents. We're not allowed to speak. So we go there and we sit there with signs.
This
That's
is
what we
the-
do.
But this is the issue that we saw in Lower Saucon Township. There are elected officials, and I know that Millie Bean and a whole group of people go to the Nazareth Borough
Us do.
all the time, because I get the emails to go, but they're on the same night as another meeting that I have to attend, and we literally cannot be everywhere.
Yeah.
This pains me that they do this, because I know the impacts. I know what PFAS can do to people, and I know what the cumulative impacts are to the water. This is something that frustrates me even more, because the same people do get elected to those, and then they do appoint their friends, and that this keeps happening. And the fact that Nazareth Borough could buy a property in another area and dump on your area where you don't necessarily have any voice with your own elected officials to do anything is a travesty. And I understand this situation. We need to come up with a solution, and I haven't come up with one yet. And it frustrates the heck out of me that any elected official at the state level says, no, go back to them. Because they can do something about it, and they should be putting their heads together over there in Harrisburg and doing this work.
May I ask a question?
You can, Mr.
My grandparents,
Heckman.
my grandparents were farmers, I understand. Don't lump me in with these. But here's the thing. You said Nazareth is shutting you out, which I agree with Mr. Kusick. That's on the edge of the sunshine. I mean, I don't know. But I would say this, the municipal authority, when they meet, I would think they have to have a courtesy of the floor session. as
They
a
let
public-
us speak. So
They do
I will
let you
actually be
speak, so
leaving
you-
here and I'll be going to that meeting right
Okay.
after here. But they give us a total of 5 minutes. And they only allow 2 people to speak, and within that total of 5 minutes. So if one person speaks.
Wait a minute,
and
there's a limit on, if, let's say 7 people come, 7 people have to share 5 minutes.
They won't even let 7 people speak. He
That's
says 5
baloney.
minutes, but they are only limiting it
All
to
right.
2 people per subject.
To speak to Mr. Kusick, and look, we always welcome people coming in, and I know your frustration. There isn't a place in Harrisburg where they have a big thing here and you can go on like Zoom, let's say, and address them. They'd rather spend hours arguing over parliamentary procedure. But, and so, you know, we welcome people coming in. It gives you a chance to, even if there's very little we can do sometimes. But I think what has been brought up here, and it's not on you in the sense that you didn't cause the problem, but municipalities, authorities, boards, and the solicitor can correct me if I'm wrong, generally they're required to allow citizen participation, at least to a degree. And I would say if you get your people or friends or neighbors, whatever, I would push the issue. I mean, I think there are plenty of, I mean, I know a couple friends of mine who are big into environmental issues, whether the attorneys or the Elliots. And there's more than that out there. I'm giving the brothers a plug here. But they would be more than happy, I think, to encourage local governments and authorities that limit citizen participation. Now, they can put times just like we do, because now and then we get a ringer who comes in who used to want to come and do an hour yelling at somebody sitting up here. But the thing is, but within limits, and you have a right. We often say, keep going. You're in the middle of something, nobody's going to shut you down. Yeah, I would push it. I mean, at your local levels, and I would challenge. And I'm an elected official. I would challenge elected officials and appointed officials who limit your possibility of speaking to issues that directly affect you and your neighbors. I just wanted to say that because, and I know it's difficult, and I know at first it's, oh, you can't do this. But I think you'll find that a light, you shine a light. I think we were always used to this when the papers were big time, and now, you know, we don't have as many papers, but we have sources that still report. Yes, I know, I see them. And the thing is, we do get coverage, but I'm just saying, sometimes the local authorities, they sort of slip under there, and they come in, they have an agenda. I sit on a board, a redevelopment authority, and we start every meeting with courtesy of the floor. I don't ask, are you from the city of Bethlehem? I mean, it's courtesy of the floor.
So they didn't start.
Again, I just say,
Yeah.
I would just, and I'll stop,
Yeah.
push them. Feel free to
appreciate
push
that.
them and push them hard.
So we have actually even called them out. One time they had someone from the American Red Cross come and speak, and I said, excuse me, are they from the borough? And then another time they had someone from like a school that wanted to do a school book fair, and I said, I don't think she's from the borough. And their solicitor tried to say, this is different, this is different. And they didn't start checking where you lived until we started coming in and raising hell. And then technically, my mailing address, it's Plainfield Township, but my mailing address is Nazareth. So then I started getting sneaky with writing in Nazareth, but then they're like, well, is this the borough of Nazareth? And, you know,
There's a Bethlehem legislator who said once, and I agree with him 100%, the most important part. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on, I apologize. The most important part of the meeting, their Bethlehem City, at that time, council meetings, just as ours is the courtesy of the floor period. The rest is mechanical, we do things, we hear of, but this is the most important part of any meeting, is what do the citizens have to say? And I know you don't have that with Washington, you don't have that with Harrisburg. They come, but they go back. And so, yeah, I agree with Tara. I would say anybody come here who wants to, but I can't believe some of the stuff you're dealing with. I certainly, but I've been, people complain I'm argumentative, but I would be challenging that.
That's silly. I think one of the things that was really successful in Lower Saucon Township, too, is that they formed coalitions. The Bushkill Creek watershed, the Martins Jacoby watershed, all these waters are connected. The Delaware and Lehigh corridor, they're all connected in some way. They all have societies, even Trout Unlimited. You know what I mean? Talk about Sierra Club, Food and Water Watch, the Delaware River Keeper Network, Penn Environment. Go to all these individuals because they will make a bigger thing out of this and pack the room, force them to talk to you, and if they won't, disrupt. Honestly.
I've been kicked out twice.
Let them kick you out again and again and again. And I honestly wish I could go there. I wish, because that meeting is always at the same time as this one, and it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating to me because I care about this issue. And I know people, it doesn't fall on deaf ears what you're going through. If you want to get together and strategize about this, I will help you any way that I can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do.
And Millie Bean has my number.
Yeah.
She has my email. She even texts me on things that I didn't even know I had. What the heck is this called? WhatsApp? Yeah. Apparently you can contact me any way you please, and I will try to make time for you because
Thank you. I appreciate that. Did you have another?
No, I just wanted to follow up by saying ultimately, this decision is being made by elected officials in the Borough of Nazareth who appoint members of the authority, okay? The path to change is to change those people.
And one of the reasons why they won't let us speak is because they claim that the sewer authority is a completely different entity and they have nothing to do with
If
the
they
decisions.
appoint the individuals to that board,
Yeah.
they do have a responsibility.
And that's what we've tried to say too. Even more so, the only way to get to the sewer authority's website is by going through the borough's website.
yeah.
So, yeah, but thank you. I really appreciate your time.
And please make sure you give whatever you need to.
I got it to her, yes.
You did. Thank you
Yes.
very much for coming.
Thank you all.
And
Good evening.
We'll try to sort things out.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. So that was fun, Sludge. All right, now we have a wonderful report from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission on the long-range transportation plan. And thank you so much, Becky Bradley, for rushing here.
Sorry.
No, I think you have at least 20 to 25 minutes, and I'm sure that's going to
Oh.
make everybody here happy.
Okay. Can I display, or is that okay?
I don't know, can she display? She can't. We do not have
Okay.
it set up.
That's okay. I can follow up, email. Yep,
Sure.
okay. All right, I'm actually here on behalf of the Lehigh Valley Transportation Study. So that's the Transportation Planning and Investment Board. So it's the sister board of the LVPC. So it's separate set of bylaws. All right, so every 4 years, the federal government requires the LVTS to look at the long-range transportation plan investments in the Lehigh Valley. And the LVTS then to consider revisions to its transportation policy as well as its funding strategy. The good news is that because of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed, or that was adopted by Congress and signed into law by the president on November 15th, 2021, some of our financial position and available resources has increased. So that's good news. And some of that's still being sorted out, but I wanted to give you some of that information. Just really quickly, the LVTS is made up of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, LANTA, the Airport Authority, the 3 cities, and then Lehigh County and Northampton County. And Executive McClure is the chair of the coordinating committee, which has a final say, as well as the LVPC is involved. We serve as staff for the LVTS as well. Okay, so the update of the long-range transportation plan, super nerdy name, but what it allows us to do is to gather information, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight, on the transportation issues in the region. It allows sub-regional priorities to be considered, and we are meeting with all 62 local governments. We started that on February 27th and have been having meetings. We have 3 meetings set for tomorrow. We have met with Northampton County administration already as well to get an idea of some of the priorities that are existing out there. Why did we do it that way? Well, we found out last time that if we just say, hey, everybody, submit your projects, that local governments that don't have as many resources really don't have the capacity to put in projects, and they need them. But communities with a lot of resources can put in like 12 requests and pay for third parties to put those together. So we decided this time we'll just take people's requests, we'll go to them, we'll fill out forms for them, and that they don't feel like they have to hire a third party. So that's another reason why we're doing meetings all over the place. I think we have 27 total meetings, and we're about halfway through now with like small groups of local governments, and then they can follow up with us, and we help them complete everything that they need to. Okay, so how is this transportation funding allocated? About 80%, but sometimes 100% of transportation money in America comes from the Congress, from the United States government, and it has to be matched. Usually it's usually an 80-20. Most of that match comes from the state, so the Commonwealth's legislature. So this budget that we have is the federal plus what we anticipate that the state will put in as match. So the funding has different buckets. So you don't just have one big total number that you can spend however you want. And funds are allocated out to each region, but we also have to go and negotiate for funds from PennDOT to basically make that federal match. So we do that frequently. There's a couple of buckets. There's the highway bucket. I really call it the road bucket. There's the bridge bucket. There's some safety funds, some congestion mitigation air quality funds, and those funds are really one of our only ways to pay for sidewalks on bridges and other things. To give you an idea of kind of the restrictions on some of the buckets, so you would think if there was a bridge across a sidewalk, you could repair it as part of the bridge repair. Not always. So we have to match different buckets of money to make projects work. There's transportation alternative set-aside funds, and like Northampton County has received some of those for Trail Gap 9A. which is great. And then we'll be getting some more funds that the LVTS can allocate out as well. So we're trying to get a sense of what projects are out there for some of those walking, biking, trail connection, transit projects. And then the transit agency has its own bucket. Because we're a region with only one transit agency, those formula funds just go directly to LANTA. But in order for them to access them, they have to come through the long-range transportation plan. There are 2 new buckets of funding. Protect dollars, and that is for promoting resilient operations. And so we don't exactly know what the rules and regulations are for that yet, nor do we know if we're going to get a regional allocation. Yeah, you share my frustration. But we've been on many meetings with PennDOT and USDOT trying to sort all of that out. So, and this goes across the whole Commonwealth, by the way. So those are meetings with all of the planning partners. We're awaiting further information from the federal government on how that can be allocated. So our budget is sort of an estimate right now for that. And then carbon reduction funds. We got our carbon reduction budget last week. Obviously we have some time constraints because I think I didn't mention yet, the LVTS has to finalize the plan by the end of September, which is the end of the federal fiscal year. But in order to do that, they really have to have the plan done by June because there's a process then of it going through all sorts of regulatory review in order for them to vote on it. So it's complicated in the least.
So this carbon reduction bucket, is there any allocation mandates for that?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
So they're telling us,
Potentially use that for the climate action plan?
we're trying to figure that out. So the USDOT said, well, you have to allocate this funds out, but we don't have the final ruling on how you can use it. So go ahead and suggest some things.
Climate action plan.
Yeah. But I think most of it's got to go for hard infrastructure, but we're trying to figure out what it all means. So again, there's a lot of like run, breathe, hurry up and wait. This is different than any other funding cycle ever. So I'm not criticizing it because it's more money and new money that we can use for a variety of things. We just don't entirely know what that is yet. So we're going to try to allocate that out. Okay, so what's the difference between the total amount of funding from the last 4-year cycle and this amount of funding? Our current funding, so what's adopted now, was $2.4 billion across all of the buckets. The new funding is $3.6 billion estimated. Again, not knowing if that doesn't include any estimates for Protect, but it does include the carbon reduction. So that's over a 25-year period. All right, so we can't program anything over our estimated budget, and it's a 25-year budget, and we put escalator clauses in for each year to make sure that we're not in a situation where 10 years from now, a project can't be funded because we were using estimates from 2023. So there's a process for that. So we go through all of that. The public certainly needs to be involved, and we're taking big strides in that regard. In fact, we're the only region in the whole state that asks the community what their transportation project priorities are, and we're really proud of that. And it has to be approved by the USDOT at the end of the day. And our budget then goes up into PennDOT's budget as well. Okay, so it helps us prioritize transportation projects and programs that should do a couple of core things that are in the federal law. Increase operating efficiency, preserve the transportation system, emphasize safety. And now, under the new law, there's 2 other things that have come into play. First, the resiliency. That's obvious with the Protect funds and the carbon reduction funds. But there's new rules and regulations by presidential executive order on what they call Justice 40, which is equity, essentially. And so there's a whole model of where we have to invest 40% of the resources in how the federal government defines equity. And there's over 40 data sets that define that. So we're in the process of loading them in so we can see what that means. Yes. So that's the changes. But it's a good thing, right? These are good topics and subjects to talk about, but we're literally running at it. So But that also allows us, I think, to be a little bit more creative because we're not just being told on everything what to do. So it's also a big opportunity. Right now, we're collecting input from stakeholders. We have a general survey out, and I have some cards in my pocket. We have 500 survey responses as of today, a little bit more. We're aiming for 1,000 because that would allow it to be very statistically valid, so I'll pass these out. It only takes a couple minutes to fill out. It's in English and Spanish, and we have a QR code, and I'll pass these out after we're done. But that really gives you an idea of where we're at and what we're doing. And then I was hoping for you guys to be able to share some of your thoughts, and I could write those down to be able to take them
know.
back.
I was like, Tara has a thought back there, but, I know, she's like, have you talked about the I-80 corridor, the I-80-611 corridor? But, yes, Tara Mizanati was here on the Rockfall issue from I-80. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yes, that's in New Jersey, though.
Sure is, but it bleeds over into us with the truck traffic and
Yes.
things like that, so.
Fully aware.
Yes. So.
No, I'm waiting for
She's
you.
asking for input from us.
Tell me what projects you got. I'm ready to type.
Projects, what projects would you like?
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's the highway and roads bucket, the bridge, the air emissions, the sidewalks, transportation, transit agency, protection, and carbon reduction, right?
Oh, yeah, I have one question. Under that carbon reduction one, would something like a hydroelectric power plant fit in that bucket?
Is that transportation?
I don't know if it certainly,
We
I
have
think
no
you-
guidance, so I'll see. It's worth asking, doesn't hurt.
I think that's, $1 million that we could spend elsewhere. I've made that pretty clear. The other one I had is these exits off of Route 22. The one by Easton High School, trying to get through there it used to just be like when school went out, now it's like all the time. Is there anything we can do there? I don't know what that falls under, but that has just gotten worse and worse and worse.
That might be a congestion thing we could look at, like a congestion management. Yeah, okay.
I always think that air emissions are important, and that's important for carbon reduction. I mean, we have so much truck traffic here. I know that we did support a study of, from Lehigh / what is it, Carnegie Mellon or Cornell? I can't remember. But it was a study about air emissions, and we got different monitors and put them around. But I think there's probably some strategic areas. And of course, there's always Bath, Bath. The whole thing just needs help. And I'm telling you, I just saw on this, I can't remember where it was, but somewhere in Hanover Township, I saw a truck getting off of 22 onto 512. And it literally went over the median with both wheels, back tires, and then took up both lanes. And there has to be some kind of magic that we could create, like a truck route to, I don't know, for trucks, something for trucks. Because these, the trucks coming on and off onto roads, even 512, I mean, you could see the ripples in 512 from the amount of weight from the truck traffic. And I think they redid that just not that long ago. And the people along the highways complain about the sound. People along 512 that are on that route complain about the sound and of the trucks going by and the shaking and everything else. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, but that's part of, the whole quality of life in the Lehigh Valley, is that these trucks don't just stay on the highways. They come onto the main roads and even back roads. so it's difficult. Go ahead, Mr. Locke.
Yeah, where do you start, you know?
I know.
I know.
412, there's way too many trucks
yeah.
coming on 412 now. I mean, it wasn't built for the traffic it has now, but I'll go to an easy one, because I can fix this myself, and I said it to you before, and I saw it again. People are gonna get killed. There's been accidents there, but it's such an easy fix. We need better signage. We need better marking. You come down 33 South, you're gonna hit 78. Trucks get in that right lane because they're always in the right lane. That's where they should be. They come to the end of that and they realize, oh my gosh, I have to go west. There's plenty of room on the side, so they choose to go straight and run the curve. They do it, I see it all the time. It almost killed my wife one time. Because one thing we never do in our family anymore is get in that passing lane, because a passing lane is allowed to turn. So now you have 2 lanes allowed to go one direction, west on 78, and only 1 lane can go east. The trucks get in that lane, because that's the lane they run in. Please, hopefully, stay in that lane. But then they're trapped in that lane, and they realize that, meanwhile, you have people that use the road every day are used to turning on the passing lane. They cut right in front of trucks. I've seen it. There's accidents down there. All we need to do is put better marking out there past Freemansburg Road. You need real signs that tell you only, and you need to make 1 lane going westbound, 1 lane going eastbound, and they need to get in those lanes right after Freemansburg Avenue, and we need to have the signage that forces them to the lane they're going. I mean, there is signage, but these trucks, I drive that a lot. These trucks don't see it. They're not expecting not to be able to stay in that lane and get off it. People are gonna get killed down there. And they're nasty accidents when they're happening. So that's my pet peeve, because I think it could be so cheaply fixed. It's not redesigning the road, it's re-signage, and it will save lives down there. It's bad. So that's my pet peeve, besides the whole Northampton County is, we should have been spending money on roads a long time ago, that no one playing catch-up, which I've heard many times by you, Ms. Bradley. And so anyway, that's my pet peeve. Thank you.
It's getting better.
Giovanni and then Mr. Heckman.
Becky Bragg. The big concern, and a lot of people are talking to me about, is the lights at Route 33 in Wayne Gap. They were there at one time, PennDOT took them down, but they never replaced them.
Oh, they're not there?
No, they're not there. The exit, the only light there is on the northbound exit is what you get from the drive-in from Taco Bell they just put there. It's pretty sad. And a lot of people have told me that's dangerous. There's no lights. You come up through Belfast, it's lit up like a Christmas tree. You go to Wing Gap, there's nothing.
Lights,
So that's one project that needs to be done.
solar lights. Go ahead, Mr. Heckman.
Becky, I know way back when I was on the planning commission, when it was still joint planning commission, but the big talk was always, well, we're not going to do this or that because the only time the roads are clogged is in like 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6. But that's all changed now. I mean, the roads are just clogged.
Yep.
I think, as my colleagues have pointed out, God knows if we had the time, we could sit down and probably jot about 30 or 40 problem areas. I wouldn't say Bath is a problem. I'd say the traffic in Bath is a problem. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
But
So
anyway,
I'll qualify that
Tara.
statement. It's not the city or borough. It's not the borough of Bath that is the problem. It is the trucks in the borough, because
Tara,
I
it's
love
humor.
Bath. Thank you. Bath is a beautiful place to live, for recreation, all sorts of things. Love it. Bath is awesome. Go ahead.
anyway, a question I have, because I don't remember, but a question I have is, that I know, and I understand your position, you make recommendations, but when municipalities, because the municipality itself can decide if a truck's allowed or not allowed. I know they're limited with state roads, right?
Yeah.
They can't do that on a state road unless the state, PennDOT agrees to say, no trucks allowed. But a municipality, within the municipality, they have the right for roads they control to say no trucks or a weight limit or anything like that, don't they?
Okay, so the state legislature made it even more complicated right before COVID started.
Oh,
Sorry.
great. I didn't think
Yeah.
I'd ask a complicated
Sorry.
question because your
Oh,
time's.
man. Okay, yeah, okay, well, I'll
So in
try
other
to give you
words,
the
they
elevator
can't
speech.
just do it.
They can't just do it anymore. They have to now follow, and the state just can't do it anymore either. They have to have this engineering study that meets these federal standards. And so it's now become even a burden of expense for the Commonwealth to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
My
it's
colleagues-
a big problem. It's compounded the
I mean,
issues.
and you know this, and we all, Lord knows we all know it. This area has changed regarding trucks. And like Mr. Lott said, I mean, I see it all the time. And the trucking industry is hurting for employees. So they dropped their age, I think, to get a CDL to 18, where I believe it had to be 21. And I see it, I mean, I see it all the time. As my brother-in-law and my nephew, they had the CDLs. These guys, they put them in the truck, they back it up, they show they can back up to a dock, loading dock, and they put them on the road. And yeah, I've come up 512, and the guy will swing out, he's way out in the other lanes, he's taking 2.5 lanes to make a turn off a huge exit. It's rough, but I don't know, and you've been talking about this many times. I guess no one really has a solution on how to make this place move smoother, because no matter what we say or do, if I'm driving a truck, and I've known a lot of truck drivers in my life, some of my friends grew up, in that, and they were truck drivers, overland, local. They don't care what signs say. They look for the easiest route where the least traffic is, and that's the way they go. And that's why it would prompted my question to you, because I mean, I've been in a neighborhood, and I hear this rumbling, and all of a sudden I see this tractor trailer go flying down. And it's like, what the hell? And the one guy said, well, they know that if they use this, they won't hit one of the big problems is down by the Butchtown Hotel. You get there, especially at the wrong time, and they're going to put up 1,000+ apartments. I mean, I don't even know how the light's going to work because they don't have one on Butchtown Road that leads into Easton Avenue. And right across the street are going to be a few hundred apartments they're going to build. And up the street, another 100 or so apartments. So I guess, Becky, the thing is planning. You know, this goes back to the 80s. Bethlehem Township, fairly or unfairly, took a lot of heat because the thing was, well, they have a open for business sign. Any developer who had a plan, come on in, we'll stamp it approved. And I mean, you know, when Lehigh Valley was discovered, Northampton County was discovered, 33 was extended. So I guess the thing is, anywhere you look, we could probably use money.
Yep.
But I think what you're doing is good to get input from people, and I'm sure you hear the same in Lehigh County, but we seem to have really been hit because of the 33 and 22.
Yep.
78. I mean, I believe that's the big problem. I'm sorry, Tara, but I just want
No,
to-
that's great. I think it's,
And I was joking. I know you respect Bath more than you respect yourself.
Wow.
you know what, could you just stop? Just stop. Thank you.
One thing we're trying, one thing we are doing on the freight side of things is we were able to work with PennDOT to allow us to work with our neighbors to try to come up with a new freight infrastructure plan where we can at least put in a plan, these are the routes that should be designated as freight, and then we can start picking off engineering studies. And that's important for everybody. So that's underway right now. In the consultant, it's actually Lackawanna, Luzerne, all the way up into Scranton, Carbon, Schuylkill, Monroe, Pike, Northampton, Lehigh, Lebanon, and Berks. I think I got them all. It's at the big area, because trucks, it's 78, 81, 80, like the C, basically, because that's really where a lot of the growth is happening. So you'll hear more about that later this year, and that should be at least the start of making some change on some of those, with some of those roads and in some of those situations. Not a catch-all, but at least moves us towards solving some things.
But this is why I think the regional plan is so important, because we're a regional community now. You can't do one thing in one area and not affect another.
I want to throw another project out there, and I don't know if you've been in touch with your old stomping ground here in the city of Easton, the canal boat lock. That's recently been in the news about the need for upgrades and repairs, and it's somehow tied in with the hydroelectric plant. I don't know the ins and outs, but I know that it's broken and they need a lot of money to get it fixed. Maybe that falls under one of these buckets that you're talking about, but it's a terrific tourist attraction. It'd be a shame if it continues to stay closed.
This isn't, it's not the same thing. Yeah, I'll look into it for sure, but it's related to the Humor Park.
Yeah.
Is the bridge, the Humor, or the Clendon Hill Bridge or Humor Park Bridge,
Yeah.
not the one you own,
Yeah,
but the one the city has. LVTS is moving to try to get that one rehabilitated.
Which one?
Okay, you know, there's two bridges coming into Humor
Yeah.
Park. The one that you use, the one laner, that, not the closed
Not
bridge.
the Iron Street.
Not the Iron Street. That's a whole nother thing that we're working with you guys, with Mike Amelia on. But the one that they use is not in good shape either. And so LVTS is working towards moving funding to get that basically rehabilitated. That's happening like right now. We just are working to try to move funding towards that project.
That's great.
Yes.
Bucket,
But
right?
the
Yeah.
canal boat
The
issue
boat,
though
yes.
is in addition to that. So I don't know if there's money available for something like that. It is quote
Water
unquote transportation,
Water
but
tr-
Yeah.
You know what? Do you have one more thing? No? You know what? I just have to say thank you, everybody, for participating in this lively Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee. Robust, yes. I enjoyed every second of this. Sincerely. Especially Mr. Heckman's comments. I mean, hey, right? And I just want everybody to know as we close that I have a great deal of respect for myself. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thanks. I get it. In public, it's fine, you know? Survey. Yes.